A reading from the book of Genesis. So Abram went up from Egypt, he and his wife and all that he had, and Lot with him, into the Negeb. Now Abram was very rich in livestock, in silver, and in gold. And he journeyed on from the Negeb as far as Bethel to the place where his tent had been at the beginning, between Bethel and Ai, to the place where he had made an altar at the first. And there Abram called upon the name of the Lord. And Lot, who went with Abram, also had flocks and herds and tents, so that the land could not support both of them dwelling together, for their possessions were so great that they could not dwell together. And there was strife between the herdsmen of Abram's livestock and the herdsmen of Lot's livestock. At that time, the Canaanites and the Perizzites were dwelling in the land. Then Abram said to Lot, "Let there be no strife between you and me, and between your herdsmen and my herdsmen, for we are kinsmen. Is not the whole land before you? Separate yourself from me. If you take the left hand, then I will go to the right, or if you take the right hand, then I will go to the left." And Lot lifted up his eyes and saw that the Jordan Valley was well watered everywhere, like the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt, in the direction of Zoar. This was before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. So Lot chose for himself all the Jordan Valley, and Lot journeyed east. Thus they separated from each other. Abram settled in the land of Canaan, while Lot settled among the cities of the valley, and moved his tent as far as Sodom. Now the men of Sodom were wicked, great sinners against the Lord. The Lord said to Abram, after Lot had separated from him, "Lift up your eyes and look from the place where you are, northward and southward, and eastward and westward. For all the land that you see I will give to you and to your offspring forever. I will make your offspring as the dust of the earth, so that if one can count the dust of the earth, your offspring also can be counted. Arise, walk through the length and the breadth of the land, for I will give it to you." So Abram moved his tent and came and settled by the oaks of Mamre, which are at Hebron, and there he built an altar to the Lord. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. So in this chapter, I see a couple of things. First of all, that Abram and Lot were very wealthy, very rich, and they had a lot of herds, and they even had their employees, their own herdsmen, to take care of all their livestock. Both Abram and Lot were super blessed with all kinds of livestock, so much so that the land they were living in wasn't big enough for the both of them, and it started to show in strife. There was strife between the kinsmen of, the herdsmen of Abram, and there was strife with the herdsmen of Lot. I can only imagine the sort of arguments they would have, and all the bickering and wantonness, and maybe even one or two getting out of hand and actually getting into fights, or throwing rocks at each other. Who knows? But it was obvious to Abram and to Lot that they couldn't continue living together, even though they loved each other and they were kinsmen, and they were both super wealthy. So they saw that it was fit for them to split up, for Lot to go his way, and Abram was cool enough to let Lot choose first. Said, and being the nephew, he told his nephew Lot, "Where do you want to go dwell?" And Lot chose the area that seemed the richest, the Jordan Valley, where it was green and lush. And he thought to himself, this land is even better, so I'm gonna go there. And Abram took the worst looking territory, all the dry land, the Rocky Mountain places even. So it wasn't like he felt really blessed because of it, but he was, because over where in the territory that Lot had chose, um, over in Sodom, in verse 13 it says, "Now the men of Sodom were wicked, great sinners against the Lord." So Lot ended up choosing to live in an area where it was filled with people that really sinned greatly against the Lord, and that 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 itself is worse than living in dry territories or mountainous regions or dry land, because you got to live among people who do not fear God and are probably just going to end up giving you a hard time all of your life. It's better to just live in peace in somewhere where you just have your wealth, and you're not fooled by eye candy and all that is pleasing to the eye. And so I see how you could say Abram got the short end of the stick, but at the same time, he didn't, because he didn't have to live among great sinners like those who lived in Sodom. And we all know that later on in the Bible, we hear that God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah because of all of their sinning and wickedness. Um, uh, let's see. And the other thing is that I see that here is where God gives Abram his major blessing, where he says that he will give his land to his offspring, and he will make all his offspring as the dust of the earth. So if somebody can count the dust of the earth, that's how many offspring Abram is going to have. And obviously none of us can count all the dust particles on the earth. And I can take pleasure and faith in knowing that I'm one of those dust particles. In faith, I believe that in the same God of Abraham, and I believe that I'm one of those descendants of Abram, and that God's promises to Abram are being fulfilled in my life. I can be very easily one of those little specks of dust, and that were included in the offspring and the blessing that God gave Abram. And lastly, Abram ended up settling by the oaks of Mamre, and he built an altar to the Lord. And one thing that I've noticed is repeating ever so often in these last few chapters is Abraham finding himself among oak trees. And I just make a connection that I live in Oakland, California. Now I'm not very good at identifying trees. I can't really tell, oh, that's an oak tree or not. But Oakland, I'm pretty sure, received its name because of all the oak trees that were in here, in this territory to the east of San Francisco, where I was born. And so just a little something that made me take interest in it. And I see that Abram made an altar and blessed God there. So I think I'll just end by saying that it's not good to have strife with anybody. It's good to live in peace always, and especially not have strife with God. Be on His good side always. And the other thing is that you can't be fooled by eye candy. I mean, obviously, where Lot decided to go live, he saw that the Jordan Valley was well watered, like the garden of the Lord. And so appearances can be deceiving is one of the major points I get out of this. And that even though we live in an area that may not be pleasing to the eye, but if God is blessing you and you're living in peace, that's priceless. That's worth a lot more than living somewhere nice, having nice cars and all these other luxuries. But you're going to be living in strife and among people that God is going to end up punishing You can find yourself within the mayhem. But yeah, it's just better to live in peace with the Lord and be content with what one has. And God will bless if He chooses to, but He doesn't have to. We just have to be thankful for what we do have. Amen.